All right, everyone. Um, Good morning from Chicago in the USA. Good morning from uh, Auburn, and we're really excited to be here today. Good afternoon and good evening to you, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Marshall Houserman, and I am the Executive Director of Enrollment Management at Shorelight. Shorelight works with uh, 70 plus universities in the United States to help students enroll in their dream institution and help to educate the world. We are going to talk about 3 of our top 100 universities, as well as talk about how you go about preparing for the application process today. One of our special guests today, I'm really happy that he's joined us, is the managing director for our Auburn Global Partnership at Auburn University, Chuchu Chidume. Did I pronounce that correctly? Great. If you want to say hi to everybody, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marshall, and good day to you all. I simply just go by Choo Choo. It's nice and easy to say for those that are might have struggles with the last name. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I've been in the States for a good while. I'm the managing director at Auburn Global, and when I get to my turn, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I actually came to the US as an international student, and I'm excited to talk about Auburn as one of the options for you and why a spring start would be great for you. But I'll kick it to Marshall right now, and then we'll circle back when I get my turn. Thanks for having
Awesome.
me, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Choo Choo. We're really excited that you're here to talk a little bit more about Auburn University as well. All right. So today we're going to cover some basics on how to apply to a university. You are probably in the discovery phase and the preparation phase of getting ready to submit applications, or many of you already have submitted some applications to universities to study for your undergraduate study, whether it's in the spring semester coming up or in the fall 2024 semester. So we're going to talk about how to apply, preparing your materials. We're going to talk about finding your fit. Maybe it's that maybe those are things you haven't considered. Things like where you want to live in the United States, whether you want to be in a big city or in a college town or a medium-sized city that might provide some other unique opportunities. Finding your fit can also be a discussion about your academic major. Does the university you're looking at have the right academic program for you? So we're going to take a look at those types of things, give some professional tips on being prepared for the process. And then we're going to give you the chance to think about 3 different top 100 universities that we work with. Auburn University, the University at Buffalo, and the University of Illinois, Chicago. We'll have a little bit of time to wrap up at the end, some Q&A. If you have questions throughout the process or throughout the presentation at any time, list them in the Q&A, and we'll try to respond to those the best we can at the end of the session. So let's go ahead and get started with today's informational session, shall we? So first things first, we want to get the process started. One of the things that you need to do is you need to start preparing your materials. You need to gather the necessary application materials to make a complete application. Universities, students often think that the university is slow or that a university is asking them a lot of questions, but it's often because we haven't provided a complete application. And so I want us to think about what we need to do to have a complete application so that when we submit our transcripts, our English score, and other materials, we are prepared for the university office and admissions office to make a decision. And then we're going to talk about finding your fit, finding the university that is the right fit for you, and then determine which universities you're going to apply to, inquire with, and apply to your university choices. First things first, and one of the most important parts of the gathering your application materials is having your transcripts prepared. You may know them as transcripts. You may know them as an academic record. You may know them as a mark sheet. They may be there's many different names that they go by around the world. But thinking about your complete academic record for secondary school study or high school study. Students often think that if they just provide their last year of high school, that may be sufficient because in their country, they might only need to provide grade 12. Or students might think that they only need to have grades 10 and 11 to apply because that's what they've done in high school, but they may not have grade 9 provided. It's important to make sure that you check what the document requirements are for the universities you're applying to, and that you have all of that prepared. Transcripts tell your academic story. They let an admissions officer, like the team, like my admissions office team, understand whether you're academically prepared for the program that you're choosing. What courses have you taken in high school? What grades have you obtained in high school? And they let us make a determination about you and your path and whether that's the right path for coming into our university. Again, it's important to make sure that you've collected all of your transcripts. If the university generally requires grades 9, 10, and 11, make sure that you get grade 9, you go and collect grade 9, even if grade 9 was a transcript from another school. This is one thing that students miss a lot of the time, and it slows their application process down. Then they become frustrated about applying to universities, and it's one thing that they think negatively about as they think about either the university or they think about studying in the US. It's not as big of a barrier as it sometimes is thought to be. It's just making sure that you've collected all those transcripts, okay? And know your grades. So in your country, start a basic understanding of what your grades that you achieved are compared to the United States. So if you received an A grade in your country, is that the same as getting an A in the United States? If you got a D in your country, is that actually a D in the United States, or is that a B or a C? Know your grades and understand where they fall within the United States framework. You don't need to know the exact match of what your grades are equivalent to, but have a rough understanding, have a general understanding about that. And then understand your strengths. And this is really important. As much as your transcripts tell an academic story, they also help you understand what you're good at. If you want to be an engineer and your transcript says that you have gotten C grades in mathematics and you aren't at the top of your class, maybe that's a conversation that you have with yourself and with your family about whether there's something else that you're really good at. And maybe you're really good at graphic design, and that is an art and design, and that is showing on your transcripts. Your transcripts already tell us what your strengths are because of the grades that you achieve. So understand that what your strengths are from your transcript, and think about that when you think about what undergraduate degree program you're going to apply to. Almost every international student in the world is going to have to provide some proof of proficiency in English language, usually by submitting English language placement test results. So, for example, if you're from, say, Ukraine, or you're from Thailand, chances are that you're having to take an English language placement test. Now, some students may not have to. Some students who studied who are from the UK or from Canada, a country where English is the native language, may not have to provide an English proficiency test. sometimes those proficiency requirements vary by university. So it's extremely important that you check the requirements of the university you're applying to. Do I need to have an English language placement test result or not? Am I eligible to apply without taking an English language test? Also, make sure that if you do sign up for an English language placement test, that you've selected one that is accepted at the universities you're considering applying to. Students often do this in reverse. They often take a test and then try to fit that into wherever they're applying to. That's okay if you understand that the university is not changing its requirement. So if you take a test and then the university isn't accepting that test, you just have to accept that that university is now off your list. And you have to think about what other universities you want to apply to. Sometimes it's better to understand which universities you really have an interest in going to, and then simultaneously think about what English language test. There are some English language placement tests that are commonly accepted. If you were to take the TOEFL, IELTS English placement test, or Pearson PTE, you're probably going to be able to use that at almost all US universities. There are other tests that have gained a lot of popularity. You may or may not have heard of Duolingo English test. You may have taken the Duolingo English language test. But universities are sort of split on whether to accept that test. And so it's important that if that is the test that you have decided to take, that is a good example of making sure that the university accepts it before submitting an application. Or you can be prepared to take a separate English language placement exam if necessary. English language placement tests are generally valid for 2 years, and most universities accept them as valid for 2 years. If you've already taken an English language placement test, make sure that it's still valid and make sure that you've taken it within that time period. And it's one of those things that is generally accepted within 2 years, but isn't really a discussion if it's going to be more or older than that, okay? So if you just took it and it's going to be just over 2 years, you should prepare to take another English language placement test. Universities want to make sure that you still have a high proficiency level in English, and that's why they are checking on that validity, because they want to make sure that you've continued to practice and study your English language and continue to be proficient. Next, we want to talk about a little bit about gathering additional application materials. So some universities require additional application materials, and some degrees within universities may require additional materials. So it's important that you understand what you want to study. And when you check the universities that you want to study with, whether they have additional requirements for that particular degree. You can review additional materials requested for your desired study program, and they may include things like an essay. So for example, I know that 2 of the universities we're spotlighting today do not require an essay. Auburn Global and UIC, Auburn University and University of Illinois Chicago do not require an essay. University at Buffalo wants to know more about its students as it makes its admissions decision and does require an essay. That essay shouldn't be seen as a hindrance or a roadblock. It's really because they want to make sure that there's additional time for you to tell your story, for you to be able to tell more about yourself as they look at making their admissions class. So take thoughtfulness in that essay. Don't just use ChatGPT to write the essay. Think about how it speaks and has a genuine voice, your genuine voice. Additional materials might include an SAT or ACT exam. It used to be fairly standard. If I was doing this session with you all a couple years ago, we'd be talking about the SAT or ACT as a general necessity for applying to top universities in the United States. That's no longer true, and not one of our three universities today, and the majority of the top 100 universities in the United States, actually, along with most undergraduate programs, do not require SAT or ACT anymore for entrance. There are some states where it's required. So there, in the state of Florida, all public universities, for example, have to have an SAT. Students must provide an SAT examination score. So check where you want to study and check the requirements of the university. Some may not require the SAT or ACT, but they may use it for scholarship consideration. So also an important factor when we talk about financing and funding later on. You may be required to provide a resume. You may be required to provide audition materials or a drawing or art portfolio. So if you're really interested in theater and you want to get into an undergraduate degree in acting, you may have to provide an audition of acting materials. If you want to be in the music conservatory, you may need to be able to show in an audition mastering your instrument and being able to play at a high level. If you're interested in a graphic design program, you may need to show a portfolio of artwork or sketches or designs so that you can be admitted. Those are specific to certain majors, and you'll want to check those things as well. Those shouldn't also be seen as roadblocks to gaining admission, but really that you're prepared for the program. So, if it's a top-notch theater program at a world-renowned university, they want to make sure that you're prepared to be able to act. I'm not a good actor, so I would not be good for the program, but I would want to make sure that I was good for that program if I was applying, and that I had the tools necessary to be in that undergraduate degree. So that's basically what is important for you to think about when you're thinking about do I have the right application materials? And it can be one of the simplest things, but submitting your application materials completely and thoroughly really does make a difference in how you present yourself in your application. So make sure that you've done the homework and you've done the research, and that your transcripts are complete, your English placement test is ready to go, and that if there's any additional materials, you have them prepared. So now you have your materials and are ready to create an application list. I want you to consider these questions when you're thinking about the right university. First of all, is the price right for me? Students often think, oh, I want to go to a top 100 university, or I'm destined to go to this amazing school. And then, they don't consider the ability to pay for that education. And so they want you really need to think, can I afford to study here? Are there scholarship opportunities? What is going to be, does this fit within mine and my family's budget? Is the location right for me? Understand that the United States is not one big country that is all the same. Parts of the United States are very different. The Northeast is very different from where I live in the Midwest. It's very different from where Choo-Choo lives in the South. It's very different from the West Coast. So really thinking about those things as well. Thinking about the size of the city and the location of the city is also really important. And then also, is the academic major offered the right one for me? Does my university list include the right universities for my future academic and career goals? You may have thought for your entire life that you really wanted to go to, UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, but the major that you're most interested in is not offered by them. And so maybe that's not the right fit. Maybe that's not the right school for you. It's important to think about those things as you navigate this process. So first, let's talk about price. Let's know just some simple rules I have here. Know your contribution limit. Know what you're able to pay per year. And, the number one advice I have is if you think that you have that amount for the first year, make sure that you have it for every year you plan on studying, or that you will have a source of contribution for every year. Because I hear too often students that have 1 year ready to go and then get to the United States and say, okay, what do I do for years 2 and 3? And we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that students are prepared to fund their education for the entire time of their degree. Research scholarship opportunities. Universities that we're going to talk about today, as well as other universities, have scholarship opportunities. But do homework around the university, what those scholarships look like, and also around what other scholarship opportunities are available outside of those universities. There are other scholarship opportunities for international students, and take a look and see what those are. Considering costs outside of tuition. Students also think, oh, tuition is $30,000 per year. My family has the ability to pay for that. But they do not always take into consideration the cost of living. How much is rent in the city in which you want to study? How much are meals? How much is going out to the movies, buying new clothes, putting gas in a car, or paying for transportation? You want to consider all those costs as well. It's really important that students think about those things, because they may think, oh, this is a great deal, but then not be able to actually afford the cost of housing in that area. Or they may say, wow, I don't want to live in that type of housing, and I can't afford better housing if I lived in a bigger city. So considering costs outside of tuition is really important. And then the last sort of ties all this together, just be realistic. It's really easy to think, oh, that's what I want to do, but I'm $15,000 a year short. Be realistic about what you can contribute and what's available to you, and make sure that that's part of your application decision-making process. The next is location. Do you want to live in a bright lights big city like Chicago or New York or Washington, D.C.? Or do you want to live in rural America? Maybe you want to live in a small college town, not even a college town the size of Auburn, which is a little over 100,000 people, but a town that has a liberal arts college and is 10,000 people. Think about where you want to live. What part of the U.S. do you like snow? Are you excited about seeing snow for the first time, possibly? Maybe then you want to move and think about living in the Midwest or the Northeast. Maybe snow is something that you absolutely know you've been in snow before and you never want to see it again. Consider then maybe living in the Southwest or somewhere like that. If it also, location can be different vibes. Midwesterners generally are fairly even keeled, but a little bit standoffish, but they will help you out all the time. People in the South are very bubbly and warm and welcoming. People on the West Coast are extremely laid back. If you think about those things, you may also think about where you want to study. So thinking about the culture of the area of the United States, thinking about like the weather, things like the size of the city, can all be important. For example, we're going to do a little bit of this when we talk about our 3 different universities, but Auburn is a college town, and everything at Auburn revolves around the university, and football games on the weekends and things like that. University of Illinois Chicago is more about connecting you to the city as part of your education, but it isn't surrounding campus and being on campus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The University of Buffalo is a little bit of both of those things. It's not quite the same powerhouse in terms of athletics, but it is a medium-sized city. It attracts students who want to be able to experience a little bit more city life outside the university, but also have the ability to go to a big city like New York if they want to from time to time, and also have a college campus feel as well. So thinking about your location is really important. And then very importantly, finding your fit on academics. So like the question, do you have the right grades? Be realistic about the grades that you earned and achieved and whether they will get you into the degree you're looking to apply to. Does the university offer my desired major? If you want to study bioengineering and there's no engineering college at the university you apply to, think about your dream university. Think about what universities you need to then put on your list and you need to apply to. As an example, University of Illinois Chicago does not have hospitality and tourism, but we get questions often at Shorelight. Can I go to this university for hospitality? Well, in fact, no, they don't offer that program. But here are 7 different alternatives to that. So really thinking about the major you want to study and whether it's offered by your university. And then think about whether STEM designation is important to you. For those who don't know, STEM is, science, technology, engineering, and math, but it is the designation that gives you additional time and optional practical training, or OPT. At the end of your degree, it gives you additional work time on your student visa. For some students, that's extremely important. For others, it doesn't make as much of a difference. Understand whether that's going to be an important factor for you, because some undergraduate majors even vary by university and whether they are STEM designated. For example, some universities, the undergraduate major of finance is STEM designated, and at others it's not. So think about those things as you're looking to apply to universities, and just don't always make an assumption that the degree you're looking for is STEM approved. Think about what programs the university is known for, and think about whether this university excels at biology, or whether they excel at music, or whether there's a better opportunity for you as somebody who's interested in getting a music degree or somebody who's interested in getting a business degree. Think about the top place for that. The #1 undergraduate major for international students at University of Illinois Chicago is biology, biological sciences. People might often think that it's computer science or business, but it's actually biology, because there are a lot of students that are interested in pre-health professions, in going into the health sciences, in getting a pharmacy degree later, and achieving a optometry degree or a dentistry degree, or going into getting a master's degree and working in a pharmacy research lab. And so they join UIC in biology. Chucha will talk a little bit about what Auburn is known for and why students choose it. But students don't typically choose UIC for some other majors that even they may offer. And that's because you want to think about what programs your university is known for and can really help launch your future career success. And lastly, will I succeed at this university? If I'm gung-ho, if I'm really interested in getting into this university, will I be successful? Is it that will I be successful because of the academics? Is the program, do I have the right background, prerequisite knowledge, or am I going to drown and not do well? And you really want to think about your success when you're choosing that degree. If you need additional guidance, Shorelight is here to help. As we're talking, we're going to spotlight now. We're going to shift into spotlighting 3 of our universities. But we work with top-tier universities. We have unparalleled support. You can go to shorelight.com and look through for application support, universities at a glance, where you can look at different universities and understand more about them and then go into greater detail about learning about them. We have on-campus support, similar to what Choo Choo does with international students every day at Auburn University. And our signature student experience starts from the moment you apply through starting your undergraduate career on campus. So let's get transitioned to learning more about 3 top 100 universities. I really hope that you've understood a little bit more about the application process and being prepared to really think and have real thoughtful approach to how you're applying to university. Now let's start talking about our three of our top 100 universities. We'll kick it off with Auburn. Choo Choo, I'm going to kick it over to you now.
Thank you very much, Marshall. And let me find my screen to share. All right, let me know if you can actually see my screen.
Yep, we can see it.
All right, do you see the Auburn presentation?
Yeah, but you're not in slideshow mode.
Okay.
So we can see it. There we go.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Marshall. And of course, as a former international student listening to you, I was thinking to myself, like, goodness gracious, I wish I had someone like you kind of directed me through the process. I do remember about 20-something odd years ago how challenging it was for me to apply to come and study in the US. But today I'm here to talk about Auburn University, and I will go through a couple of slides just to highlight some of the opportunities here at Auburn University. But before I even start, I would like to concentrate on the spring semester and why I think, with my years of experience in the United States as both a student at the undergraduate level and graduate level, and now an administrator for Auburn University, the spring semester is probably one of the best semesters to apply for or to start your program. Traditionally speaking, most students actually start in the fall. And if you think about it, a university has limited resources to support students. But in the spring, there's a significant reduction in those that start their programs. So what we have found out is that students that start in the spring have access to significantly more resources because there's less competition for the limited resources in the first place. We always think about the spring semester as a semester for growth. I mean, of course, even around here, the trees, the grass, everything, the flowers, everything is blooming at that point in time. And then the activities on campus are, the student organizations on campus are highly engaged in the spring after all what we call the fall planning, and at Auburn specifically after football season is over. So it is a great time to start. In addition to that, of course, what follows the spring semester here is the summer semester. So it's a great chance for a student to immediately take a break or play a little academic catch-up if they see fit. And the good thing about the summer semester is that it is even shorter. So these are just some highlights as we go through these presentations on these 3 universities, why you should strongly consider starting your program in the spring, okay? But let me get ahead with this thing, and I have, it looks like 25 slides, but I promise you, I'll go through them in 10 minutes. I do get super excited, so I might go a little fast, but I'll try my best to pace myself. So Auburn University, or Auburn Global. Auburn Global is a department on campus established by Auburn University to primarily manage the first-year experience for international students. And as you can see on this, in this presentation here, it's a top 100 university in the southeastern part of the United States. Their rankings here were the number 42 as a public institution. You can see some of the things that I tend to like to highlight a lot. In 2020, we're the number 1 when it comes to happiest students in the United States. And of course, you can also see that our students are very well engaged. And highly engaged students tend to be highly performing students too. Where is Auburn? Auburn is in the state of Alabama, not too far from some bigger cities like Atlanta, Nashville, Panama City, if you want to go and enjoy some beach time. It is it's in a quaint town, and it is a classic college town. What does that really mean? I think Marsha talked about it a little bit. everything around Auburn University in the town is built or is set up with the student in mind. It's a massive campus. You can do everything you want on campus, from live, eat, shopping, everything essentially is within walking distance. And everything around the campus is essentially set up thinking about the student in mind. It was established a long time ago, as you can see, in 1856. And Auburn University offers easily over 150 undergraduate degrees and a good number of graduate ones too. Over 250,000 students have graduated from Auburn University worldwide, or at least they have an active alumni association worldwide. Of course, we talk more about it. The climate is nice and mild, it's warm. If you're interested in snow, you can drive up to Nashville from time to time when it does snow over there, or go further up to the Midwest or Northeast. I didn't have all this information when I was trying to make a decision for myself, but I'm happy I did land here because I like to see the snow from afar. And if I'm interested, I'll travel somewhere and go and see it and come back. So these are just some things you need to think about for sure. The centralized location for Auburn makes it easy to kind of go to these places by road mostly, and still come back and have an opportunity to focus on your studies, which is primarily speaking the reason why you're spending a treasure to come to the US to study. Now, of course, Auburn, we have great facilities at Auburn. Our Recreation and Wellness Center, I think, was top 5 set up, ranked as one of the most luxurious centers on campus. I actually exercise there from time to time. Well, I've kind of slacked off a little bit, but it's a fantastic facility. It has, I want to say, 5 basketball courts, 3 floors of gyms. It has a rock climbing wall, you name it, it does have it. Not too far from campus, and I think you can take a little bus ride there. You can go to one of our state parks called the Chihuahua State Park, and you can, dirt bike ride. There's a pond over there. I take walks from time to time, and we've taken students there to go have a good time and do little picnics. It's a great experience for sure. And of course, we have our art museum called the Jules Collins Museum. All these things I'm talking about are easily accessible from campus. And we have what we call the Tiger Transit. You probably see a little picture of it in the first picture there. That will essentially move you around. If you're a college student at Auburn, then you have access to this bus at no additional charge. You can see all the way to the left, we have our football stadium. And when I'm talking about football here, I'm talking about American football, not soccer. And of course, Auburn is a preeminent football institution. So every fall, we argue that on every other Saturday that we have a home game, that is essentially the biggest city in the region, because our stadium holds about 80 to 90,000 people, and easy another 100 and something descend on the town to come and enjoy the college football. There are a few other pictures here talking about just how students stroll through campus, and you can see our campus is a beautifully manicured campus. I'm going to kick it over to Raphael, who's one of our ambassadors, to kind of do a campus tour. It's easy for me to talk about Auburn, but it's probably more interesting to hear from the point of view of a student. So I expect that this will play, so just bear with me here for a hot second.
Hello everybody, my name is Rafael Santos. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, and I'm currently studying marketing here at Auburn University. So let me take you on a quick tour of campus. So Auburn has 206 academic buildings, and let me show you just some of the most important ones.
One of the things that makes Auburn unique is its traditions. The Sanford Park area on campus is home to many Auburn legends and traditions, including the trees that will roll after an Auburn victory. Sports play a big part of university life in the US. Each university has its own traditions. Here at Auburn, we roll the trees after one of our sports teams wins a game. What we do is we gather at Toomer's Corner and throw toilet paper on the trees. This is our library. I study there all the time. In the library, you'll find so many great places to study and really focus on your academics. It's so relaxing here that you will actually want to study. The Bell Classroom facility is one of the newer classroom buildings on campus. You'll find a bunch of great places to get comfortable and study here as well. And who wouldn't love this view while you study? The Student Center is home to some of Auburn University's awesome dining options, and it's also a hub for student involvement and activity. Right outside the Student Center, you'll find the main bus hub for the Tiger Transit, a bus system that is free to students and travels throughout the campus and the city. The College of Business and the College of Engineering are the two of the largest colleges on campus. The Harvard College of Business has two main buildings on campus. The newest business building has a great view on campus from the rooftop. The College of Engineering has cutting-edge facilities designed to create the most student-centered engineering education experience possible. Engineering students have access to all of the technology they need to succeed, including labs that help them put the knowledge learned in the classroom to practice. At Auburn, it's not all work and no play. Students love attending games in Jordan-Hare Stadium, which hosts more than 80,000 people. The students sit or really stand during the whole game cheering for the Tigers in their own section. Auburn students love to work out at Auburn's state-of-the-art rec center, which has been named one of the top rec centers in the country. The rec center includes a resort-style pool, basketball courts, rock walls, and the largest suspended indoor track in the nation.
Now, of course, at Auburn, two of our preeminent colleges, one is engineering and the other one is a college of business, but we have students that are interested in that study in a variety of colleges. So for example, we have the hotel and the restaurant management in our College of Human Sciences, and we've had a lot of interest in that. We have our College of Architecture, Design, and Construction, where students can study architecture, building science, industrial design, and we've had also a lot of interest in that. I can go to, just in the interest of time, I'll probably move through some of these slides a little more quickly, just to highlight some of the things here. There's another video, but we'll kind of skip that one for now. In the College of Business, there's an opportunity for students to participate in something that we call Tiger Cage, which is similar to Shark Tank in the US or Dragon's Den in the UK, where students get to pitch a business idea and compete and win $50,000 to fund their business idea. One of our top programs, supply chain management, has a lot of our students have gravitated towards that. And if I were to identify the two majors that the international students at the undergraduates study the most, computer science and actually business, which I guess does not really surprise me. Student life is a central focus at Auburn University, and we have over 500 organizations on campus. And we have organizations that some of our students have actually initiated and started. And one of the ones we talk about a lot is the International Buddy Program, where a domestic student is paired with an international student. I want to see if this video can play, and if it doesn't, then I'll just kind of move quickly to the end. Oh, don't worry. I don't know if you guys can see it. All right. I'm going to skip the school spirit one. No. So just to highlight some notable alumni here, coming to Auburn will be great for you because you can at least argue or state that you went to the same school that the CEO of Apple attended. He was a student here at Auburn University. I want to talk about two things just to highlight, and then I'll kind of pivot and go back to Marshall so the other schools get a chance in the light. Some of the student outcomes are important to highlight. Auburn has about 4.9% international student population. And since 2014, over almost 1,200 students have received an undergraduate degree that we have managed, and 300 students have received their master's degree. Now, what is also important is that Auburn University tracks the employment rate for students that have graduated 6 months post-graduation. And just, you can look down here to see some of the top employers for Auburn University students. 80% of them essentially who go out seeking a job do get it. About another 15% continue their education, so they either go into a master's degree or another advanced degree. And of course, this is just self-reported information. And of course, I haven't talked about the most important thing, which would be all the majors that exist at Auburn. Now, there's no way for me to go through all of them. We have over 150 undergraduate degrees scattered across 12 colleges, and you can see them all listed here. And of course, at the graduate level, we have a significant number of degrees too, but 26 that I really do want to highlight. With this, I will stop the presentation and kick it back to Marshall, and we can circle back with questions after that. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you so much, Chuchu. Really awesome. Thanks for highlighting some of the key aspects of Auburn. It's really helpful. Really enjoyed the student taking us through campus and the focus on certain programs that are really important. I noticed in the engineering building, aerospace engineering, which is one thing that's a really good example of a major understanding where you want to study if you want to major. A lot of universities have a college of engineering, not a lot of universities have aerospace engineering. So that's one unique thing, you know, in thinking about, as we talked about earlier, looking for the right place for your academic interest. That's one thing that can really play into that, is looking at those sorts of things. So thank you. We're going to take a couple minutes and go through the University of Buffalo and University of Illinois Chicago. We're going to start with the University of Buffalo, which is part of the State University of New York system. So you may have heard it called SUNY Buffalo. You may have heard of SUNY, other SUNY universities. But University of Buffalo is probably one of the most well-known and biggest. It's over 32,000 students. It's a public university with over 300 undergraduate programs. You know, that's a lot of undergraduate degrees and majors to work through and have an opportunity to explore. And is, you know, nationally number 76 in the U.S. News and World Report current 2024 rankings. Buffalo is also in the top 25 universities in the United States for hosting international students. So this is something that goes back to an importance in looking at universities. Some students want to have fewer international students on campus, and some really want the diversity and the global feel of their university. If you study at University of Illinois Chicago or University of Buffalo, it's going to feel really a lot like being at a global university or at a very cosmopolitan place. If you were to choose a smaller university or a smaller college town experience, it may not be as international. The Auburn is fairly international. You're going to see a lot of diverse students from diverse backgrounds. But what I'm talking about more is smaller liberal arts colleges or regional universities in different places where maybe you want that experience of really being able to push the boundary. Maybe there's a large Korean student population at the universities you're looking at, but you really want to not be surrounded and feel like you're going to get connected only with Korean students, but you want to meet students from all sorts of other places. That may be a factor in looking at some of the pieces when you're applying to these top universities. A lot of top 100 universities are going to be very international, strong, and friendly. And so it's no surprise to me that Buffalo is one of the top 25 universities in the United States for the number of international students that it has. Buffalo is also a medium-sized city. So for somebody who doesn't want to be in a city of 2, 3, 4 million people, but wants to be surrounded by more than, green grass and and farmland, it can be a really good option. It's also a really snowy option. In the winter, Buffalo gets a higher than average amount of snow than a lot of other places. So if you really love the sight of snow, things like that, it might be a great place to be. It's also really connected to other big cities. It's very easy to get to Canada. It's actually really easy to get to Toronto. It's a 2-hour drive to Toronto and only 30 minutes to the border with Niagara Falls. New York City is not that far of a drive away. And students regularly mention how there's an opportunity to do different weekend activities in bigger cities. You're also very close to a very global career network. So there's a lot of opportunity for students in Buffalo. There's also a lot of campus opportunities for students as well. With 18 residence halls, over 11 libraries and art galleries, 400 student clubs, it very much is a campus feel where students really are connected on campus with each other and looking at that experience. Very similar in some ways to Auburn, except Auburn, I think, is even more of what we think of when we think of a college town, in terms of the football stadium where you saw all the people gathering for football on Saturday, and you saw the way that everyone on campus is really invested in the university, and the city and surrounding neighborhood are as well. We're going to pivot a little bit to talk about how that looks if you go to an urban insight, an urban campus, and what that looks like if you were to be located in a city like Chicago. And so if you study at the University of Illinois Chicago, you're going to find that you have the university campus part of your education, but you also have the city as part of your playground. Chicago is a big city. It's over 2 million people. The surrounding area, metropolitan area of Chicago, is upwards of 9 million people. It's not as big as some of the global cities our students come from, but it definitely is the third largest city in the United States and the third largest sort of metropolitan hub in the United States. It's also the biggest city in the center of the country, and is a cultural hub and an economic hub for most of the people living in the center of the United States. With our museums, theaters, galleries. I live in Chicago, so I can talk about Chicago all day. So forgive me if I run a little astray on talking about Chicago because it's where I'm located. But we have all of those things to provide students. Connectivity. Students have the opportunity to enjoy the extensive public transportation network and be connected to the city. But again, it's a very different option for students, and they have to be ready to succeed in an urban and thrive in an urban big city environment. Let's look at UIC by the numbers. UIC is one of the 2024 top 100 universities at number 82. It is one of the most diverse universities in the United States. So where Buffalo was one of the top 25 universities with international students, UIC is actually top 25 in most diverse campuses. A lot of the students on campus, you may assume or presume, are international students, but they're actually first-generation students who are U.S. citizens living in different parts of the Chicago area. Extensive network of different backgrounds and cultures. It does feel like a truly global and cosmopolitan university. If that's the type of university you want to study at, then UIC as a top 100 university is a really great option. The other highlight for UIC is not necessarily its campus feel. It does have a campus. Students do hang out on campus. There's activities in the student center. It's pedestrian only in the middle of campus. But I think the biggest selling point for UIC for students is more around the value that it brings to them for their future success. UIC has been rated in the top 10 by the Wall Street Journal in terms of social mobility, the ability to move forward in your in your economic status, and the ability to, change your life and your economic forecast for your future. And by the Wall Street Journal and Times Higher Education, also one of the top 10 best value colleges. And so those are very important things when we think about how much a university costs, what is the investment I'm making, and what I'm going to get back from that investment. And the investment that students are getting back is the ability to gain careers and connections to professional networks that will lead them to great at career heights. And that is the value, I think, of being in a big city. So if those are things that you're really focused on and you're really excited about being amongst the skyscrapers, University of Illinois Chicago can be a great option for you as a student. We've highlighted 3 very different universities here, but one thing they all have in common is their willingness to embrace international students, embrace diversity and culture, and really help you think about what your next success is. And it may be that you're interested in biological sciences, and University of Illinois Chicago is a great fit for you as you think about your future medical medical profession goals. It may be that you want to end up working in the aerospace industry, whether it's working in on airplanes or designing the newest Boeing jetliner. Aerospace engineering at Auburn might be a great option for you. If you're interested in computer science, thinking about what the faculty in computer science is doing at these universities. So those are all great options and opportunities for you. And I really want you to think about how all of that fits in when you're preparing for your application process. So remember to make sure that you have your application materials completed. Make sure that you have your complete academic records, that you've already ordered them. It's not a negotiation. Make sure that you've prepared and completed your English placement results. You understand the grades that you have achieved and what it takes to get into your university. Make sure that you understand the location, the price point, the type of university you want to be at. Make sure that it's the right cultural fit for you. We want students to succeed. As part of our mission of working with the universities we just highlighted, Shorelight wants our students to be extremely successful. And my job as Executive Director of Enrollment Management and looking at the admissions landscape for all of our partners is making sure that we take the right student and put them at the university that they belong in. And I want to make sure that we help you do that today and in the future. We don't want students to choose a university because they think it's the right fit, but they're going to drown in a big city of 3-5 million people. We don't want students to go to a small town who are going to be bored out of their mind and not in town engaging with the campus at all because they're always trying to go to Atlanta instead of engaging and embracing the Auburn culture. We want students to really think about those things, think about what interests them and how they're going to fit in and mold into the academic community and campus community at the university they're choosing. We've got some really great options. These are just 3 of the many options, university options we have. But these are 3 great top 100 universities that I know our students are successful at and have the ability to be successful and go on to have very rewarding careers and future academic and career success. So thank you for joining us today. Please do check your email after this session. Using the email you provided at registration, Shorelight will be sending additional information, including how to apply to these 3 universities. Thank you again. We wish you all a great day. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much.